The Carpenter and the Cradle, A History Weaver Adventure, Book 1, by Connie Cook Worden, read by the author. Chapter 11. Have you made any nice friends in Beaver Row? Graham asked Coral over the world's best lasagna. For a non-Italian, Coral always thought Graham could out-lasagna anyone, probably even an Italian. No, not really. We've been too busy with the renovating, and it's summer, so there hasn't been much chance to meet people my own age. When school starts in fall, I expect I'll meet the whole population of Beaver Row. I mean, the whole population that goes to high school. Well, we do have some near neighbors, Mum put in. Remember that sparky little dark-haired girl that stopped by to say hi one day, Coral? She seemed nice. I could see the two of you hitting it off. Yeah, what was her name? It was a month, wasn't it? It was June, Hope put in. She didn't even look up from her phone. Hope, Mum scolded. Put that away. No phones at the dinner table, you know that. Especially when we're visiting someone. What will Graham think of our manners? We've grown a little lax, Mum, with living out of a travel trailer. We don't have a proper table or usually sit down to meals altogether, so I guess we've let some things slide. I apologize. No need for you to apologize. Hope's the one with the bad manners. I'm sure you taught her better, Graham said dryly. She was always one to call a spade a spade. Hope slid the phone back into her pocket. That's better, Graham nodded at her. Hard to imagine what you kids find to do on those things 24 hours a day. I can barely stand to answer the one I have in the kitchen. Every time it rings, I brace myself for someone wanting a favor from me, wanting me to volunteer my time for this or that, or those telemarketer people trying to get some more money out of me somehow. Or I think it's going to be bad news. My real friends don't even use the thing. They just show up at my door if they have anything to say to me. Guess I have them trained to know how much I hate that contraption. Coral bit the inside of her cheek to trap the smile that was trying to escape. They all knew how Graham felt about her house phone, and heaven forbid she ever own a cell phone. Of course, ever since the news that Coral's dad was killed in a crash had come to them over the telephone wires, Coral had a new appreciation for why her Graham hated to hear the ring of her phone. It had been a rainy, almost winter evening in late November 2.5 years ago, but Coral still felt sucker-punched in the solar plexus all over again every time the memory of that night came back to her with all its awful freshness as though it had just happened. The policeman said weather conditions were likely to blame. Between the heavy fog and slick rain in the twilight, the other driver had somehow veered into oncoming traffic. The other driver walked away without a scratch. The driver at fault had been driving a heavy-duty pickup truck. Coral's dad had been driving a compact car. He was killed, and the woman driving the pickup was unhurt, even though she was the one who caused the accident. The entire thing seemed so unbelievably unfair. Coe steadied himself to avoid showing surprise. It was part of his training never to be caught off guard, or never to show it if he was. I'm fine, he told the raven-haired, ponytailed man crouching on a branch of the nearby tree, a body length or two above Coe's head. Coe knew his accent must give him away. In his training, he'd learned to understand and speak the language of the commoners, but he knew he didn't speak it much like the man who had addressed him. Okay, just making sure. Coe shrugged and prepared to start on his way, but the man stopped him with a question. Are you from around here? Coe shrugged again and answered vaguely, Nearby. Maybe you could help me, the man said. Coe waited in silence. He hadn't been about to ask the man what he was doing there, perched like a bird in the tree. He didn't want to have more conversation with the raven-haired stranger than bare politeness required. But he would draw more attention to himself than need be by charging away while the man was talking to him. I was out hiking yesterday and I got myself turned around, couldn't find my way back to my vehicle before dark. That's what I was doing up in a tree when I spotted you asleep in the grass, in case you were wondering. I had to spend the night out here, but it's not like I was sleeping anyway, so I thought, soon as it turned light, I'd climb up a tree and see how far I could see if I could spot the place where I left my vehicle. But I can't see far enough. I wondered if you might know the area well enough to tell me which direction I should go. Do you happen to know the way to a big log bridge that crosses the river? Coe considered for a moment. The man didn't appear very threatening, but Coe scented a trap. How likely was it that a lost man had stumbled upon the very spot where Ko had been hiding out? It seemed much more likely that he was someone sent to find Ko. But two facts weighed against that theory. The man was plainly a commoner, and not one of the enemy. Ko had never heard of the enemy using commoners as spies. Like Ko's people, their enemies generally had no more dealings with the commoners than was absolutely necessary. And the man had not taken the opportunity he undoubtedly had, while Ko was asleep, of catching him by surprise and taking him captive again. Then, too, he didn't seem to be armed or have any means on him of binding Ko. Ko's inner debate quickly found an answer to his last points. Ko would be a cumbersome burden if he needed to be carried. Of course, it would be easier to convince Ko to go along with him to a place where the enemy was lying in wait to ambush him again. Much better for the man to get Ko there on his own 2 feet. Ko nodded and pointed upriver, giving no other answer. Perhaps the man would leave in that direction, and Ko could take a different route back and avoid any traps. "How far is it?" the man asked. "You'd be there well before midday, leaving now." "Are you heading that way? Which way are you going? If you're going that direction, why don't we go together?" Ko signaled a no with his hand. "I'm going the other way." The man climbed down the tree and landed with a thump beside Ko. He looked down at Ko's feet. "Barefoot?" the man asked, surprised. "What happened to your shoes?" "I don't need them," Ko said quickly. He didn't want to explain how, from his very youngest years, his feet had grown accustomed to almost any terrain, and only saw the inside of any kind of footwear once the snow flew for the year. "Did you lose them? How did you come to be out here in the middle of nowhere, especially without anything with you?" He popped around the far side of the tree he'd been perching in. Then Ko noticed the pack around the other side of the tree where it hadn't been visible before. What was in it? Was this when the man took out his weapon and showed his true colors? Instead, the man hoisted the small pack to one shoulder and stood, waiting for Ko's answer. Ko thought carefully. "I walked here," he said simply. "I was hiking too, but I waited too long to go home and it got dark. So I slept the night in the field," was the explanation that he decided on. "You hiked here without shoes on your feet?" the man asked. "I had shoes," Ko lied again. It didn't come easily or naturally to him. In fact, it was completely against his code of honor, but self-preservation demanded it at the moment. "I took them off to wade in the river and cool my feet, but I set them on a rock by the river. They were too close to the edge. They fell in and the river took them away," he finished. He hated to be proud of the lie, but he was rather amazed at himself. For someone as unaccustomed to lying as he was, he could hardly believe the ease with which the story slipped out, barely needing to be thought through. "I see," the man said slowly. Ko wasn't sure his story was believed. Maybe he wasn't as good at this as he thought. "I guess you don't have enough experience to know better. Young fellow like you shouldn't be out here on your own." Ko bit the inside of his lip to keep back the smile that threatened to break out at the idea that he had little experience in the wilds. Besides, this stranger was the one who'd gotten himself lost. Why was he lecturing Ko about being inexperienced? "Guess you must be hungry then, eh? Young man, what's your name?" Ko said quietly, "Ko," not sure if revealing his real name would be a mistake or not. "Sure wish I'd saved some of my lunch, but I only have some jerky left in my pack. It'll tide you over like nothing else will. Would you like it?" Ko hadn't eaten since midday of yesterday. Surely there couldn't be any danger in accepting food from the stranger. He took the jerky and chewed away manfully on the tough but tasty treat. He'd need some food in his belly for the trek home anyway. "There, that's better. You needed that," the man observed as he watched Ko attack the food. Ko didn't answer, but kept chewing. While he ate and the man watched him, Ko weighed his options. He could try beat another path through the woods to get back to the bridge, but following the river would be so much easier and quicker. If there was a band of enemies lying in wait for him to pass by, accompanied by the stranger, they wouldn't turn around and go home just because he wasn't with the stranger. They'd just keep on waiting, assuming he would still have to pass the spot to get back. He could try beat another path through the woods to get back to the bridge, but following the river would be the most direct way. The man on his own didn't appear to be any threat to him. He'd caught a glimpse of the inside of the pack when the man had reached in to take out the jerky for him. There was no sign of a weapon on the man. If he was luring Ko into a trap, was Ko really any worse off to go with the man than to walk into the trap by himself? On the other hand, if the man was telling the truth and he was just a hapless hiker on his own who'd spent the night lost in the wilds, he might provide Ko some extra measure of protection if his enemies were waiting for him somewhere. Maybe they would hesitate to attack Ko if he was with a commoner. Or perhaps the man could at least provide a distraction if they did jump Ko. Then there was the information his instincts that Ko had learned to trust were telling him. Ko didn't sense any reason to fear the stranger. The man seemed genuinely concerned for Ko's welfare. And if he was telling the truth, the man himself might be in danger, wandering alone in the wilds. He had need of a companion like Ko to guide him. All at once, Ko made up his mind. "I can go with you, back to your vehicle," he said quickly. The man smiled a smile of relief. "Oh, good. I wasn't any too sure of finding my way back on my own. Sorry to take you out of your way. If you get me back to my vehicle, I can give you a ride back to wherever you need to go." Ko shrugged again. He didn't know how to refuse the offer, but he'd think of something when the time came. For now, he had an unexpected companion.